A group of influencers chasing content ignored every warning and made their way through a drainage tunnel late at night to reach a notorious haunted hotel. They emerged into the ground floor lobby, which was strung with bare bulbs that gave it the look of a sinister incubator. While the others took photos, Dane slipped away on his own. Ordinary footage wasn't going to cut it for him. He went deeper into the hotel alone. A large iron sphere sat in one room alongside an old piano. For the stream, he pressed his right hand lightly on the keys. The moment the notes sounded, something stirred upstairs, as though the sound had woken it. He assumed it was rats, but the noise grew too large for that. He turned and hurried back to find the others, caught his foot on the stairs, and fell. He didn't stop for his phone. A hand had already appeared behind him. Back in the lobby, Rick and the others couldn't reach Dane on his phone. Clara wasn't too worried. Dane was always pulling pranks, and this was probably another one. The group's photographer, Xiaohei, was absorbed in capturing footage. This location was rare and their whole shot at going viral depended on what he came back with. He noticed long scratch marks across the wall, and among them, something that looked unmistakably like a large clawed handprint. He photographed it and brought it to the others. Nobody laughed. A few people felt the unease settle in properly. This place had been wrong to enter. They agreed, find Dane, then leave immediately. They split into two pairs to cover more ground. While Xiaohei's pair searched the front desk for keys, they found an old newspaper stuffed inside. It described the hotel's history. The owner had disappeared without explanation, and when she was eventually found, her heart had been removed. The hotel had closed after that. Rick's pair worked down a corridor of locked rooms. Testing doors one by one, Rick stepped wrong and a bear trap snapped around his right foot. Frank managed to pry it open. The others rushed over when they heard the sound. The wound wasn't deep, disinfected and wrapped. It would hold. None of them could explain why a bear trap was in a hotel corridor. Bandaging done, they heard Dane's ringtone from the floor above. They went up. Empty. What they found instead was a large dead tree growing out of the floor. Its branches hung with old phones and communication devices, mementos of everyone who had come in and never come out. Dane's phone was up there too. The video on it showed him running in a panic, then nothing useful. Clara suggested calling the police. Rick pointed out the hotel was in a restricted zone and the response time was unpredictable. Dane could be in immediate danger. Even Frank, the steady one, agreed to keep searching. They pushed their fear down and spread out again. The hotel was far larger than they had assumed. Searching without a plan was nearly pointless. Then a masked man came out of nowhere, and everyone flinched back. Frank, wound tight, pulled the handgun he'd had holstered at his waist. The gun was taken from him. They were hostages. The newcomers were local criminals. One of them recognized Rick. They'd heard about the visit and followed the group in, believing an old rumor that the hotel had been a gang safehouse with hidden millions. Rick suspected they had something to do with Dane's disappearance. An argument escalated and one of the criminals, provoked, shoved Rick off the staircase landing. He fell, unknown if he survived. The criminals assumed Clara's group knew where the money was and demanded they lead them to it, except the hotel map was in Rick's pocket. They had to find him first. In a corridor they saw a figure on the floor. Clara assumed it was Rick and crawled across to reach it. It was a body that had been there for years. She tried to crawl back and join the others. A criminal cut the rope she'd been using and left her isolated on the other side. Fewer people to manage. The group continued along the corridor. Passing a room, they heard crying from inside. They pushed the door open. The room was empty. Only a wardrobe. Every eye locked onto it. No one moved. Eventually one of the criminals opened it himself. Just old clothes. The exhaled relief lasted about a second before a girl dropped from on top of the wardrobe. Frank steadied her before she hit the ground. She was a journalist. Frank knew her. She had come to the hotel to report on it, accompanied by Frank's wife, and finding his wife was the real reason Frank had come at all. Frank was still trying to calm the girl down when another crash came from upstairs. The criminals ordered everyone to crouch and one of them snapped on a pair of night vision goggles, bracing for whatever might emerge from the dark. The room went completely silent. The armed criminal swept the goggles back and forth across the shadows. Then a scream, and before any of them had registered any movement, a colleague had been pinned to the wall. The remaining two scrambled to find the attacker, catching only a brief glimpse of something moving fast across their field of vision. They opened fire wildly. The creature appeared to startle and disappeared through a gap in the ceiling. When they collected themselves and looked around, the journalist had been caught in the crossfire. She was dead. Both criminals, completely undone, abandoned Frank where he stood and ran. Left on his own, Clara wandered disoriented into a room that turned out to be the hotel's central security station. Monitors covered the wall, each showing a different camera feed from around the building. He located everyone, except Rick. On one of the feeds, Dane was visible, trapped in a candlelit room. The creature was there with him, but hadn't hurt him. At first Dane couldn't understand why, until he spotted an ancient book on the table. The creature wanted to merge with him and use the fusion to achieve immortality. Meanwhile, Frank and Xiaohei were making their way to find Clara when they came across the criminals' bodies in the corridor. Every one of them had a cavity in their chest where the heart had been. They were still processing this when Clara's voice crackled out of a bag one of the criminals had been carrying. No time to explain the location location, Clara just shouted at them to run, because on the monitors he could see the creature bearing down on their position at full speed. They ran and made it to the kitchen, wedging a wooden beam against the door. Inside, they found an old service elevator, manually operated, rope-pulled. Xiao He grabbed the rope and rode it up, reaching Clara's floor without difficulty. By the time Frank took hold of the rope, the creature had broken through the kitchen door. With the power long since cut, Frank had to haul himself up hand over hand. The creature scaled the shaft far faster. Just as it was about to reach him, Frank called up to Xiao He to cut the rope. The elevator dropped. Frank leapt before it fell, crashing down into the room below where Clara and the others were. He survived. He didn't rush to join them. He had come to this hotel for one reason. Following the directions Clara gave him from the monitors, he made his way through the building and found his wife in one of the rooms, cold, a cavity in her chest, heart gone. He had prepared himself for this. It didn't help much. He covered her gently and went back to the others. The priority now was Dane and Rick. From the monitors, Clara could see Dane still confined to the candlelit room. Dane had already worked out what the creature intended. Waiting was a death sentence. Before it returned, he put on the wedding dress it had left for him. When the creature came back and found him apparently cooperative, he played along, and the moment it let its guard slip, he drove a candlestick into its eye and ran. He sprinted for the lobby. The creature came after him on all fours and caught him just short of the exit. As it began dragging him back, Frank arrived and threw himself at it. The branches of the dead tree drove through the creature's heart. Frank fell from the impact. He wasn't breathing. His death hit everyone hard, but it had ended the threat. Dane found Rick unconscious in one of the rooms. Of the 5 who had entered, 4 made it out alive. The film ends there.